E3 is approaching, and based on leaks and official statements, we now know quite a bit about what Microsoft and Sony plan to show. How does Nintendo and their Switch lineup fare when compared to the other platform holders? That is what we are about to discuss. What's going on, everybody? It's Zach from Switch Force. Gabe is here, and we are less than a month, Gabe, till the beautiful week that is my favorite week of the year. And we recently found out via a Walmart Canada leak what we expect to be some of Microsoft's main pieces, and Sony straight up came out and said today, hey, here's our 4 games. We'll get into those specifics in a second, but I want to discuss how we feel Nintendo fares. And obviously they have their own agenda, they have their own console, they sort of sit in their own space, but it will inevitably be a talking point at E3 who won and how they fared and how they compare. And given what we know, I just kind of wanted to set up and see where you and I feel Nintendo will and has a chance to rank amongst these other 2 major corporations.
Look, and this isn't just because we run a Nintendo channel, I really feel like most of my excitement and positive thoughts about E3 this year are going to come from Nintendo, right? Sony has made it clear what they're going to show, right? And those games are going to be all amazing. I have no doubt about that whatsoever. But I like being surprised. I like new announcements. I like what E3 used to be. And this year seems to be going away from that more and more, right? It's so many sequels, and it's sequels to beloved games, don't get me wrong. But, you know, I don't know how much we're going to talk about that leak in specific, right? But that did outline so much of what's going to be there.
I very much feel like that leak is credible. If you don't know what we're talking about, Walmart.com put up a whole bunch of listings for games such as Rage 2, a new Splinter Cell, a new Assassin's Creed, Forza Horizon, they called it 5, but they meant 4, Gears of War 5, and so on and so forth, Just Cause 4 to name, you know, a number of them. So, you know, if we take that at face value and say, hey, Microsoft is going to have a new Forza, a new Gears, they're going to show Crackdown, probably have, you know, 1 or 2 other pieces. Sony came out, and to me, they have an insane lineup once again, but apparently their conference will focus very much on 4 specific titles, which are Spider-Man for PS4, The Last of Us Part 2, Ghost of Tsushima, which is the new Sucker Punch title, and then Death Stranding from Kojima and company. They also mentioned that there will be third-party announcements and some indie highlights, but that kind of like covers it. As you mentioned, it feels like one of those years where surprises may be slim. Nintendo, to me, is the biggest wild card, given that we don't know hardly anything for the rest of their year. And, you know, we could bring in publishers as well, but just talking more platform holders, consoles, I feel like they have the largest ceiling right now because they have such a curtain around what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be very interesting. We all hope that Pokemon is showed in some way, and that's going to be exciting just to see what this thing finally is. Is it a Kanto remake? Is it is it Gen 8 after all? We have no idea. We can speculate till our voices are gone, but yeah, we have no idea what that's going to be, and hopefully they do show that. And there is even, you know, third party, right? Like, how much third party is going to be there? Like, there's intrigue in Nintendo's presentation that isn't there with the other platform holders, right? We know that Tomb Raider is going to probably be at one of the other 2 major, probably Microsoft conferences, right? So when Sony says, hey, we have more third parties, they are probably going to show some sports games and, like, I don't know, but we know so much about those already. Nintendo is still a little bit of a question mark, and that's exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I mean, I hope beyond probably most people that there are crazy surprises. I kind of go in with an attitude that is dangerous, where I expect greatness. Look, I like my Xbox. I'm excited to dive into State of Decay 2, but I feel like that one, like I feel like their show will pale in comparison to what Nintendo could offer and what Nintendo probably will offer. Sony is a little bit of a different beast because I feel like their quartet is insanely strong. Those are top tier games at a level that is hard to match. And we know that Nintendo will bring top tier, but what I want to ask you is, what would Nintendo need to do to sort of overtake the allure that having 4, by all accounts, gorgeous, massive, really polished games and exclusives, what does Nintendo need to do to beat that out?
It's so difficult, right? Because by all accounts, Sony, they don't miss very often, right? Horizon was a new commodity. It turns out being astonishing. God of War, right? A franchise that people have been fatigued with for quite some time. The Ascension wasn't very good, and then this comes, and this is by all accounts game of the year. It's a clear front runner, and you have to imagine that Kojima, with Death Stranding, he's probably not fooling around, man. So that's going to be amazing. I know I'm a little bit higher on this game than you are, but I really feel like Spider-Man is going to do for Spider-Man what Batman Arkham did for Batman. So those things are so difficult to compete with. If you're Nintendo, yes, you have Smash, which if it's a new game, that automatically becomes top tier, just like those other games. Beyond that, though, it's scary. Then you need Pokemon. You need Pikmin. You need a new surprise that we can't even guess. You need stuff like that.
Yeah, and the tricky bit to me is E3 is so much about the wow factor or the incredible moment, and these very story-driven, cinematic, gorgeous games do that often. But I would be remiss if I did not point out that sometimes the strongest and craziest reactions come from the Nintendo side of things, because people have such a nostalgia, and even though there's not a plot maybe to put behind, people go absolutely mad when they see the Metroid logo, or they go crazy if they saw a Kid Icarus logo, or they would go bonkers if Pokemon got announced, or Animal Crossing. So to me, I think that there needs to be a third pillar in order for Nintendo to come out ahead. And we know that they'll have smaller stuff, and I very much feel like Fire Emblem is going to be a very strong game this year. That's one that they don't miss on, hardly ever, if ever. But I feel like Smash, Pokemon, I feel like they need a very cool, whoa, third pillar. Me personally, what would do it for me is Pikmin 4. I don't know if Pikmin 4 elicits many jaw drops from most people, but I feel like they need a third game to sort of just level, because 4 real top tier titles is a lot. And again, you can argue that this is all semantics. Who cares? It just matters if there's good games. But strictly speaking of who wins E3, I feel like Nintendo needs a third, because even with Pokemon and Smash, those games are going to be great. But Sony has dominated for so long.
I wonder if we've moved past that, right? I think
have we? I guess that's a valid
people
point.
stop competing for winning E3. It's not about winning E3 anymore. Most people don't even want to be at E3.
Well, I mean, would you say that Nintendo won E3 last year?
Yeah, I guess.
I think excitement-wise they did, but I think if you look at it from a reflective standpoint, I think Sony's lineup was stronger and had more there.
Sony's impossible to compete with, man. How do you compete with what God of War is? Nintendo makes amazing games, absolutely, but they're different games than what God of War is. The Last of Us Part 2, how do you compete with that if you're Nintendo? What do you have that's on that level?
I mean, I do think, again, that not in the same genre, but I do think the excitement that is elicited by Smash and character reveals can match that. I do think the excitement around a new Pokemon, especially if it looks dramatically better, if it's Gen 8, can match that. I think third-party support would be a major piece of this, because even, say those are the two big. Say it's Yoshi, Smash, Fire Emblem, and Pokemon. Say that's your 4 games for the fall. Fine. If there is solid third-party support, whether it's an exclusive partnership, whether it is just bringing multi-platform games that we don't expect, that does it for me. And I think that then moves the conversation in hey, they are bringing such a well-rounded package. Because remember, of those games, and this is, to me, where I'd sort of like to end my argument, and that I do believe Nintendo will win, is Nintendo is targeting a very aggressive timetable here. They are looking to unveil and release within a couple of months. We absolutely know that 3 of those 4 games are not releasing this year from Sony. I mean, and maybe you argue that, they squeeze one of them into the fall, but that's not Sony's MO. They love to use the Q1 slot, as they've done for Horizon and God of War. God of War, technically Q2, but you know what I mean, the early portion of the year. No, technically Q1. Yes?
Yeah.
When did God of War come out? March?
Yeah.
April? No, 420. So technically Q2, sorry.
Is that Q2?
My dates. Yeah.
Okay.
It was initially March and it got bumped to April. That's where the confusion was. Anyhow, that aggressive timetable, I think, wins it for them. I think the fact that whatever they show will be coming out wins it. And even though, like, playing devil's advocate in my head, like, Sony's going to have these gorgeous games that 4K, just fantasies, the immediacy will push Nintendo over the top. So I do believe, yes, we're a Nintendo channel, la-di-da. I believe as a gaming fan that Nintendo's nostalgia, their ability to wow with surprise, their uncertainty around the lineup, and therefore the most potential for enthusiasm and excitement, as well as the immediacy, will eventually give them the, quote unquote E3 win.
And you mentioned that you would love this, right? But I really think Pikmin is coming. Like, I think Pikmin is getting announced. I don't. There's not a doubt in my mind about that. Yeah. So those 3 games that you're mentioning, I think that turns to 4. And then it just becomes like, hey, these 4 games are very different than those 4 games. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, quality is not beholden to just like looks alone and sheer scope alone. So there's a lot to be hopeful for with Nintendo.
And a side piece, I think this will be another year where Nintendo really has a hold on the indie scene. I think we'll get even more indie stuff, and maybe it's not all at E3, right? Maybe that's not the place, but I'm sure there will be some mentions via the Treehouse or whatnot, and I think that matters. Also, just from a straight-up fan point, if Fortnite is a part of Nintendo's E3, like, I get it's already on PS4, but just like talk of the town-wise, that elevates Nintendo so much in a way that Sony and Microsoft can't.
How much is the town talking about Fortnite on Switch? I don't think the town.
I think a ton.
I think
a ton. Oh yeah.
Why?
I think that if Fortnite gets announced for Switch, outside of Smash and Pokemon, I think that's the biggest deal for Nintendo.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big deal, but again, talk of the town? Nah, I don't know.
Talk of the E3 town?
I don't see that, dude.
Being able to bring it with you on a much better platform than your phone?
Yeah, but like, it's a known commodity, a game that's already available absolutely everywhere.
I just don't think it makes a major impact. Look at how often it appears in the comments. Look how often it appears as a video idea.
Yeah, but you also got to realize who's at E3, right? You think people at like that like are at E3 for business, right? Like developers, everyone. You think they're like convening at a restaurant at the end of the night saying, "Oh, can you believe that Fortnite got announced for Switch?" Absolutely not, man. I really don't think so. Like, yeah, like,
it will have a big.
It's cool. Like, if Fortnite's huge, and I absolutely want to Switch, players are gonna love it. But the group of people that are at E3, they're like developers and like publishers.
Right, but E3 is being watched by the world. It's not just being
what you're saying, talking about the town. Okay, I think we might be talking about something different then.
I guess I'm talking about the town of like. Talk of the Twitterverse. Talk of
that's okay. Yeah, we're talking about something separate then.
I'm not talking about the town of Los Angeles.
I thought you meant people at E3, like the business.
I think both. I really do.
Okay, I mean, all right.
So I think Nintendo is in the best position, and look, they could completely screw it up. Worst case scenario, they only talk about Smash and Yoshi and Fire Emblem. I think then, I don't know that they can do it, but. If they bring in some third-party support, if they continue to hold partnerships with indie studios that matter, and if they up the ante with whatever their immediate fall 2018 lineup is, they will be a tough one to knock out. And Sony has basically set a parameter on what they're announcing. I feel like Microsoft is like they already have parameters, unintentionally, I guess.
There's a couple of games. There's 2 games I'm thinking about. That if they're at Microsoft, it saves Microsoft's conference.
Halo 6.
No, they're not first party.
Okay.
I don't even know if they're going to be here. So, help me out here. Anthem, is that at E3 at all? If so, if that's like shown in any like deep way at any one of the 2 conferences, I feel like that's a huge addition. I think Anthem is going to be big.
Yeah, I mean, BioWare, this is their like, they've said as much like make or break it thing.
Yeah. So that, and the other one, and I know you don't like their games as much as everyone else seems to, but they have become huge. CD Projekt Red, Cyberpunk. They've said that that's going to be at E3 in some way. If that's at Microsoft's thing, like I feel like I think those are much more talk of the town scenarios. Like these, like two like major freaking games. Like those.
So there is a chance that, and Microsoft has done this well in the past. It's slipped from them as of late, but third parties to sort of make up for maybe a lack of exclusives. It's just tough when we know that like the Destiny stuff, the Call of Duty stuff, the Battlefield stuff is probably going to be at Sony.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, and does that factor for you? Like when you're looking at E3 excitement, does like Call of Duty Battle Royale being unveiled at Sony, or Battlefield campaign level being unveiled at Sony, like does that tip the scales, or when you approach it, is it more of an exclusive thing and multi-platform, kind of sits on the outskirts?
Well, I'm a little different, right? Just because most of these like third party things, I'm not even playing on a console. Period. Like if Battlefield's like, I'm not playing Battlefield on a console. That's not a thing that's gonna happen. Unless it comes to Switch and I can take it on the go, then it becomes a different conversation. But so many of these things that are available everywhere, I'm automatically going to play them on PC. Like for me, it's sadly become PC or Switch. Like that's kind of my thing. Yeah. So, I mean, it's interesting to see what everyone else is doing first party wise, and obviously I still enjoy all the first party offerings that aren't available anywhere else. But for third party, I'm playing it on Switch or PC, and that's about it.
Yeah, to me, I feel like so much of my evaluation of E3 does boil down to first party or exclusives. I mean, it doesn't have to be first party exclusive, but straight up exclusives, because where it's shown does not change the fact that it's going to be playable elsewhere, right? So like for me personally, Sony showing Call of Duty, whatever. Like I could get that on whatever platform I want, right? So like to me, it does. The only one the only one where a third party really matters is Nintendo, because I don't expect much. So if there is third party, it's like, well, as you said, it's so fun to play stuff on Switch. I'm totally like neutral about playing something on PS4, Xbox, or PC at this point. So being able to bring it with you, like that has an added oomph. Whereas it's like, okay, yay, Battlefield. Okay, like it's going to be on everything. But oh my God, it's Assassin's Creed this year is on Switch. Like, holy crap, the new Splinter Cell is on Switch. Like that then matters, and to me factors into, they are so good at their first party stuff and their Nintendo-ness that if they also have the others, like, dude, that elevates them tremendously. But it'll be interesting. I do like your idea, Gabe, that maybe E3 isn't meant to be one anymore, but I don't know. I'm a competitive person. I still like trying to establish rankings, and I definitely will be thinking that when we watch these conferences, who is the winner? Let us know how you feel about Nintendo's chances, and we rarely talk about it, but how you feeling about Microsoft and Sony as well? Do you think their lineups are comparable? Do you think they're a league above? What would Nintendo need to do to compete with that Sony quartet of quality? And do you even care about winners or losers in E3? Let us know in the comments down below. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Make sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all the latest and greatest from the Switch and E3. Follow us on Twitter and Discord if you would like to be a cool cat on your block. And until next time, thanks so much for watching. Fantastic day. Switch Force out.